Welcome aboard to the Mike Holt Show. And today my guest is Rabbi Rothschild. And you're in California. Tell us
That's
a little bit about yourself because you're a very interesting chap.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm based in California. I stream my life 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for world peace. I've been doing so for more than 4 years. My streams go back to the pandemic. We've seen the death of a queen, the birth of AI, the coronation of a king, and everything in between. If any of the audience has ever seen the movie The Truman Show or the television show Big Brother, it's very similar to that. Every moment of my waking and sleeping life is recorded live on YouTube, and not just one YouTube stream, but multiple, at least 20, generally at any given time, and other streams as well. I multi stream. In 2017, The Economist magazine stated that data had overtaken petroleum as Earth's #1 resource. And I have more data archived on the internet than any individual ever, which may make me an influential person someday. And if that happens to anyone listening out there, I want to make you, your friends, your family all financially independent if you're not already. I want to ensure that you have generational wealth if you don't already. And I want you to be able to start charities and philanthropic organizations of your own. Thank you.
Okay, look, I'm going to share the screen here and show you a live stream here. So if anybody wants to follow up on the Rabbi, it's YouTube, Rabbi Rothschild, and then in the filters over here, you select live. And that will give you all the live streams going out here. For the obvious first question, Rabbi, is what is your affiliation with the Rothschilds, the WEF?
Most certainly. I get this question quite often. We share DNA and we share a surname, but we're not all bankers, and I certainly am not by trade. In addition to being a rabbi, I'm a certified project management professional. I have successfully launched apps on the App Store and Google Play and had contracts with major Fortune 100 organizations, but certainly there are other aspects of the dynasty that I am not as closely related.
That's good to hear. It's a bit like me and my family name is Holt, and we had a prime minister over here, Harold Holt, who back in the 1960s, who drowned. And so
Right.
people often ask me, oh, are you any relation to Harold? And I always tell them, no, we're from the side of the family that can swim.
That's hilarious.
And actually, that's true. My father was an Olympic swimmer and I was a champion swimmer. So we do
Oh, wow.
swim. Anyway, let's
Impressive.
get back to you because your work is quite intriguing. And I must say, I first met you, I was astounded at what you're into. So why don't we talk about, we're going to cover 5 major topics here, but why don't you start us off with the first one?
Okay, most certainly. And to anyone out there, if I may just preface, I talk about things on my stream that are of benefit to the world, like ending world hunger through the use of technology, which we'll talk about some of this technology, but just an overview. Things like perhaps uh, greenhouses, floating greenhouses, things like perhaps cloud seeding, things like perhaps even vertical farming, agricultural drones. These are all very advanced ideas that I like to discuss. Additionally, ways to end thirst in the world. I'm part of a project that helps to build wells in developing nations and water towers. And I'd like to continue these types of ideas on a larger scale when I go viral. Additionally, I think a really excellent opportunity is desalination technology, where we pump Earth's seawater onto land, which I think is very important as well. Now, as for Mike's request, we have a series of 5 sessions upcoming, and today is the first one. We'll be discussing life extension technologies. Additionally, session 2 will be innovation shaping a better planet. Session 3 will be Earth mega projects. Session 4 is humanity beyond Earth, and session 5 is extraterrestrial life. And so, some of the life extension technologies that we have planned for session 1 are things like gene therapy for aging, using genetic modifications to slow, stop, or reverse biological aging processes. CRISPR gene editing, a precise technology for editing DNA sequences within living cells. things like perhaps stem cell therapy, using stem cells to repair or replace damaged tissues and organs. Things like regenerative medicine, a field focused on restoring or replacing damaged cells, tissues, or organs. Organ regeneration, growing or repairing organs within the body or in labs. Things like 3D bioprinting organs, printing living tissues or organs layer by layer using biological materials. Lab grown replacement organs grown in laboratory conditions for transplantation. Blood plasma exchange therapies, replacing a person's plasma to remove harmful substances to rejuvenate biological systems. Things like perhaps peptide therapies, using short chains of amino acids to influence biological functions like healing or hormone regeneration. Things like human growth hormone therapy, supplementing HGH to promote growth, metabolism, and potential anti-aging effects. Testosterone replacement therapy, which is becoming much more common, restoring testosterone levels in individuals with low hormone production. And this is for both men and women. Things like perhaps epigenetic reprogramming, resetting gene expression patterns in a more youthful state without altering DNA sequence. And perhaps another one we might be able to cover is mitochondrial repair therapies, treatments aimed at fixing or improving the function of mitochondria cell energy producers. That's just some of the lists that we have to perhaps review. And with that being said, Mike, what are your initial thoughts?
A lot of those therapies sounds like they have been incorporated into the med beds. Is that right?
To my knowledge, yes.
So let's start there. What is a med bed? How does it work? And how do we get one? That's the vast question. Tough one.
Certainly. You're saying med bed, right? And as I understand, let's get the formal definition. MEDBED.
Yep.
So this is a theory, short for medical beds. It may be a realistic technology, but it's also a theory popularized in some different communities since the early 2020s. Believers believe that some of these devices may be able to cure any disease, regenerate limbs, and reverse aging using certain concepts, perhaps using also different types of, of emerging technology. The theory asserts that these beds may be possessed by certain people within society or groups, and perhaps withheld from the public. While I'm not I'm not positive on who has access to this. Much of this technology is available to the average person. Now, many people may say that the average person perhaps might not be able to afford testosterone replacement therapy or human growth hormone when they're doing what they can to just make ends meet. But these types of technologies are becoming more common and more affordable. Also, things like peptides, certainly some weight loss supplements and other things to perhaps extend human life are starting to be covered by different insurances and may become more common in the future for people. With those types of opportunities on the horizon, I think that perhaps these life extension technologies may be more common for your average individual within the next decade or so, and perhaps may increase the average life expectancy for a Western individual from about age 80 today to perhaps maybe age 100, 120, a generation or two from now, which I find to be very exciting.
I plan to live forever, and I think so far, so good.
You're doing really well at it. And I think that is a wonderful mindset to have. And I talk about that a lot, especially on my stream. So I certainly talk about life extension technology, things like oxygen therapy, human growth hormone, stem cells, cryogenics, nootropics, peptides, cold shock therapy, red light therapy, perhaps ambrosia therapy, or cold shock therapy. But I also talk about, I think, a really exciting type of technology known as mind uploading technology. And this is with everyone's consent. Consent's really big in my world, and you shouldn't have any technology forced upon you, I feel, if you don't want it. But for those of us who perhaps may want to continue life like it sounds like Mike wants to, and I do as well, there may be the utilization of a type of technology known as mind uploading technology, where, with your consent, we can scan your brain into a computer like a CAT scan or an MRI, knowing where every atom is in your central nervous system and your peripheral nervous system, for later download as an android, an avatar, a cyborg, a cybernetic being, a clone of yourself, a robot, an ethereal being, whatever you want to be. But there may be an opportunity in the future, and perhaps not the not so distant future, to be able to have this digital immortality or immortality of a certain kind. So I think this isn't science fiction anymore. It's becoming science fact.
Yes, look, I believe very strongly in technology. I love AI because it's such a great tool, and a lot of people seem to have lost sight of this, that it is just a tool manipulated by human beings, and any good that it does is just as good as any bad that it does, because it's the human operator that does it. But I've made some major changes to my life in my later years. I've started eating a lot healthier. I'm actually on a carnivore diet right now, which is marvelous. It's healing me. And as you can see, how old would you say I am?
25 years old.
Oh, yeah, again. Now I'm 78 years old and I'm still young, thinking with all my faculties. I'm spry. I'm not as agile as I used to be because I've got two titanium knees now, knee joints. But apart from that, I'm in good shape. And even the doctors are telling me, gee, you're in very good shape, Mike. I believe that a good, healthy lifestyle is part of this longevity that we can achieve. And I go to the gym whenever I can. I've got a membership, so no problem there. I was going 3 times a week, but lately I've been very busy, and of course, some terrible weather here. So I get there when I can. But I'm also eating well, I'm sleeping well, I'm happy. I've got a happy household here, wonderful wife, and she's a good partner. I think all of these things factor into helping a man, or a woman for that matter, live longer than normal. And my wife's family, for instance, I was at the bedside of her 103-year-old grandmother just before she died. Her mother has just reached 95. Or maybe not, yeah, she's 90 something anyway. And she's not getting any younger. None of us are. And my family, the same thing. My mother died at 91, my father at 85. But he didn't look after himself. He had a stupid diet and he was always angry. And you can't live life happily if you're always angry. And that cut his life short. So I tend not to worry about the things I can't control, and I control the things I can.
That's an excellent philosophy. And especially with some of these emerging technologies, in collaboration with what you're currently doing, the carnivore diet is an excellent, I feel, diet to utilize. It's high protein, generally low carbohydrates. The ketogenic diet is quite similar, which may implement more fats into the diet. But if you're aware, using the carnivore diet or the ketogenic diet, after a few days, sometimes it's called keto flu, there are other names for it, of perhaps withdrawal of carbohydrates, you have more energy than you've ever had in your entire life. And you're spry, just like you're talking. You feel the mental sharpness, and you recognize that you don't get hungry nearly as much as you do when you have a primarily carbohydrate based diet. And you can test your ketogens. You're using little test strips with your urine to ensure that you maintain a ketogenic life within the ketogenic, the proper ketogenic levels. And it's just an incredibly valuable way to live your life, if you haven't had the opportunity to try it, it's worth it's worth the exercise to just say, I'm going to say for this week, I'm going to really try to limit my carbohydrate intake. I'm going to focus on proteins and perhaps fats. And you'll find after about 2 to 3 days, you no longer have those hunger pangs that you normally will have. You'll no longer have that midday slothiness that many people experience. And as you can see, Mike, who is in his late 70s, is as spry as someone 20 or 30 years younger. I know I've had many conversations with him. He's extremely sharp, and we should all want to be this sharp when we perhaps are of a similar age. And I think that is certainly an excellent utilization that you have brought into your life. I also think that in conjunction, perhaps in the future, there will be, these are already being experimented, but not just anti-aging, but also reverse engineering, reverse aging types of pharmaceuticals that may be able to actually add years to an individual's life. We're at the precipice. We are at the brink of something really special where someone perhaps a generation or two ago might see 80 years old as perhaps the time when they're starting to wind down, when in reality, just based on changing your diet and implementing some of the things that Mike and I have discussed, you're going to add decades to your life. And then perhaps with some of the other technology, may be able to use transhumanism to be able to live forever. And that's what Mike wants, and that's what I want.
The thing is, when I started this diet, little things in my body, I had my liver wasn't functioning properly. I had split nails, fingernails, and after I started the diet, everything healed. The last time I went and got a blood test, the doctor said, "Oh, your kidneys and liver are all in very good shape. I've had my heart checked. That's excellent." So, yeah, I'm in pretty good shape for an old fella, and I'm looking forward to a very long and productive life. I find now with all this energy, I'm achieving more in my retirement than I did during my business life. And I was a pretty busy boy during my business life. I ran 3 companies.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And anyone who's watching you right now is a witness to that, that very easily you could have several more decades of life. And that's without any type of life extension technology or pharmaceuticals that may be able to reverse age. And Mike, you and I feel live at an extremely exciting time of history where generations ago that they were on the brink of something really special, of being able to perhaps live longer and perhaps indefinitely, but they just fell short. And the opportunity to perhaps be able to live forever is becoming more realistic, I would say. Now, there's one caveat that I would like to say within the idea and the argument of living forever. I think that living forever could potentially be a punishment. And so I don't want anyone to feel punished. I always say, or do my best to say, if you're going to live forever, you should be able to live forever within reason. You might get sick of living someday as being a cyborg or a robot or another version of yourself, and you may be sick of it. And so I want people to have the freedom that living forever within reason is the key. And if you want to stop all of the regeneration someday, I feel that you should be able to, but I feel that you should also be able to live a very well lived life here on Earth and perhaps be able to explore the stars, as has been perhaps prophesized by previous generations, and be able to basically live all of the dreams that you have wanted to ever live. But at a certain point, you may get bored, and then I feel you should be able to end the life that you wish under your conditions. What are your thoughts on that?
I'd say if I get bored, go look for some new planets. Anyway, we're running short on time here. So let me just share the screen and we'll talk about, oh, that was the wrong screen. Hang on. There we go. We'll talk about the next session that we're going to do next week, which is innovations shaping a better planet. I think this is going to be a very interesting one. And I look forward to seeing you then.
Absolutely. And for anyone who wants to learn more about my project, feel free to go to my Linktree, linktree.com/Rabbi Rothschild. You'll find all my links there. I have more social media than perhaps anyone on earth. This is a very academic project as well. I recently was submitted to some major publications for big data and the study of big data. And I really think that anyone who hears this out there, if they know anybody who's interested in the topics that we discuss, tell them about my stream, tell them about our series on these podcasts, because this is going to be really big. This has the opportunity to perhaps be one of the biggest events in global history, the opportunity to see someone's life in its 24/7 unification, and to be able to follow along with someone's life. It's really something special. So I thank you, Mike, for the opportunity. I look forward to our upcoming series, and thank you to the audience.
Thank you. See you again.